They told us the human ship had been dead for centuries. It hung in the starless dark with no rotation, no drift, no decay, perfectly fixed, as if the void itself held its breath around it. Objects in space do not behave this way. They move, they yield, they bow to gravity and time. This one refused. Our vessel approached on minimal thrust, every correction pulse whisper quiet. The human ship grew slowly in the viewing hull, its hull a broken continent of torn armor and open ribs. Long scorch lines crossed its surface as if some invisible pressure had tried to erase it from being and failed. Someone behind me murmured a prayer. Another refused to lift their eyes from instrumentation. I felt none of that. What I felt was recognition, the quiet certainty of standing before a decision that mattered more than fear. When we matched its stillness, nothing changed, not even the faintest drift. And for the first time in my life, I sensed that our ship was the one suspended from it, not the other way around. We boarded through a breach in the hull. The airlock took its time, coughing stale pressure into a space that no longer benefited from atmospherics. Inside, the corridors opened like hollow bones, panels hung loose, bulkheads were split. Scorch patterns crawled along surfaces in ways that did not radiate from explosions, but from something that felt misaligned with the very idea of direction. There were no bodies, only the shadows of presence, a glove with curled fingers, a torn harness strap, a boot wedged in a wall seam. Signs of lives that did not end in ways we understood. Our sensors found faint pulses deeper inside, not power, not communications, but something like the ghost of a heartbeat. We followed it through narrowing corridors that seemed slightly longer each time we looked away. The comm core chamber was armored with rings of reinforced metal. Many had folded inward as though struck from all sides at once. The core itself hung in a dead magnetic cradle, crystalline structures suspended without any visible support, with thin filaments of etched metal threading through their surfaces. It looked inert. Then a soft pulse of light rippled through the crystal lattice, subtle enough that we questioned whether we'd seen it. The sensors noted a shift, small but unmistakably real. Not an energy surge, not a signal. A contradiction. "What was that?" someone whispered. "It feels like a memory," I said. The captain gave no order, and in that silence the core pulsed again. The room shifted. For a heartbeat, the ship around us was whole. Screens lit, panels fixed. Humans moved with sharpened intent, their suits marked with angular script. Their motions carried the weight of urgent purpose. The vision faded like frost beneath a warm breath. "Describe," the captain said. "An imprint," I answered. "The ship is remembering." The next pulses came irregularly. Some brought only the suggestion of motion or distorted shapes. Others revealed overlapping versions of the chamber. Different angles, different crew counts, different states of damage. This ship felt like a place caught between the act of remembering and refusing to forget. The next clear imprint revealed a crowd of crew gathered around a projection of the surrounding sector. Their faces were worn, starved of sleep. The hologram showed stars drawn into elongated forms, trailing like ink smeared across a liquid surface. Whole areas of space were missing, replaced by deep wounds of darkness. A human at the center rested gloved hands on the projection table, studying the distorted expanse. "What are they looking at?" the engineer asked. "Not a failing system," I said softly. "A failing reality." The imprint trembled. A human reached toward one of the distorted regions. Their arm seemed to occupy two positions at once, one aligned with the gesture, the other lagging behind like a shadow that couldn't decide which moment it belonged to. The imprint collapsed. My stomach lurched as reality reestablished consistency around me. "Causality fractures," I said. "Places where events no longer follow each other cleanly." The ship creaked, a long, tired groan echoing through the metal. We ventured deeper. Our guidelines drifted strangely, tugged toward corners by no detectable force. Distances felt slightly stretched. Echoes returned with a pause that felt staged rather than natural. The next imprint fell over us with disorienting clarity. A tool slipped from a human's hand. It fell, then reversed, then paused mid-air, undecided. Panels rippled as if flexing between states. Stars beyond a viewport elongated into impossible lines, snapped back, rearranged into patterns that defied catalogued constellations. Through it all, the crew persisted. They anchored themselves with redundant harnesses. They took measurements repeatedly, refusing to trust any one result. They deployed rhythmic stabilizers, small, pulsing beacons that tried to restore order to the space around them. One imprint was quieter. A human stood alone in a narrow room, staring at a screen showing Earth, blue, white, and green beneath swirling clouds. Multiple timestamps flickered at the edges, disagreeing with one another. The human placed their fingertips on the image, as if trying to touch a moment the universe could no longer hold. The image dissolved. "Why no bodies?" the engineer asked again. "They didn't die in one story," I said, "and perhaps not in one sequence." Our readings failed to stabilize. Corners of rooms seemed to exist at slanted angles. Some structures did not register consistently. Time signatures flickered between incompatible values. The core pulsed once more, heavier this time. The imprint formed around us fully, as though we had stepped directly into the past. The crew stood in the chamber, moving carefully as if their own weight might be uncertain. The projection showed the fracture zone around them, twisted filaments of broken space-time radiating outward. At the center sat the ship, a lone island of stability. The fractures were spreading. Attempts to retreat destabilized the region further. Movement represented a risk to more than themselves. They were the last reliable point in a collapsing structure. A commanding figure stepped forward. They pulled off their helmet and placed their hand on the core housing, fingertips resting against the cool metal. They whispered something, silent to us, and entered a sequence of commands. Across the core's filaments, faint lines of shifting light shimmered. Their meaning was partially intelligible. They were beginning an anchoring sequence. The ship diverted all remaining power into the core. Lights dimmed. Integrity fields collapsed. Life support shrank into a shrinking bubble around the chamber. The ship became motionless, not by circumstance, but by decision. Outside, the fractures surged, then softened. Reality flexed, then steadied. The universe accepted a new fixed point. Timelines clashed. Some crew faded at the edges of vision, their histories incompatible with the anchored moment. Others flickered and steadied. The commander's outline blurred but held. They anchored not just the ship, but themselves. The chaos steadied. The fractures quieted. A faint shimmer passed over the core. Its meaning was unmistakable. The anchor was locked. The cost was irreversible. The commander looked upward, toward a future that would never know them. Their lips moved. Hold for them. Then the imprint dissolved. Back in the present, the crystal dimmed to a steady glow. The captain's voice came slow. "We withdraw." We left as if disturbing the air might undo their choice. When our clamps released, the ship remained exactly where it had been, fixed not in space, but in meaning. On our bridge, the others recommended warnings and containment. I spoke softly. "Our worlds persist because they chose not to move." The captain nodded. "We mark it as remembrance." We laid beacons that whispered one message: "Do not disturb this place. Here, humanity held the sky together." Later, compiling my report, the facts came easily. The meaning did not. In the end, I wrote what felt true. The universe may not care whether we endure. But once, someone did. Enough to face the fracture alone. We call this place the anchor of the fallen sky.